I watched that Graham Hancock guy, the guy I like from Joe Rogan, the one who theorizes about the last ice age.
Is he the Gobekli techie or something?
Yeah, he is. He's got they gave him a Netflix show.
Look at that, and I haven't listened to any of those.
Dude, the Joe Rogan power is strong. Like it got that guy a Netflix show. He's got a big deal Netflix series. It's like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 episodes. There's a lot of archaeologists already just shitting on it and being like, this is blasphemy. And then it's so funny because right off the bat in his show, in his show on Netflix, he's like talking about how archaeology tries to shut him down left and right, talking about how like they don't want, like, mainstream archaeology hates us. At every step they try to befoul us or whatever nonsense he says. And he's intersplicing these clips of the Joe Rogan experience and him talking to Joe Rogan, like in the episode of this show. But it's pretty good. I only watched the first episode. They went to, I don't know, some dirty jungle. And there was this like step pyramid thing made out of these sort of hexagonal rocks that are volcanic in nature, but they must have hauled them 500 miles or something. Seemed like a bunch of horse shit to me, but I was thinking that maybe the future episodes might have some more likely ancient.
That seems fun. And you know what? Like in the field of archaeology, like if some guy was like, yeah, I'm a mathematician and everybody's doing it wrong, I'd be like, obviously you're a goof because all these other people have their maths. In a field like archaeology, I'm willing to believe this. Like this guy's at least right on a thing or two. Like they're archaeologists, get real. There's so much shit you haven't found. You don't know the right timing. There was a story that came out a couple weeks ago where like a formerly like debunked Roman emperor who was a total myth. They found coins with his face on it, and they were like, "Okay, he was real." Like, okay, this guy was a real Roman emperor. We just found coins with his face on it. Like it previously thought to be a myth. Now, like to think we know like anything, like everything, I guess I would say, like that's crazy. Of course there's stuff we don't know. There's probably
I really like the idea of those civilizations that predate, like
that is cool,
you know, the ice age. They go back to like I like the idea of, I don't know, people living in giant pyramids with infrastructure and technology, with like mammoths pulling their sleds and like worrying about saber-toothed tigers and shit. Like I like that world. That's a cool world. There was I've mentioned it before, but there's that awful movie 10,000 BC, and that's the whole premise. It's like Apocalypto, but time shifted
bad.
To 10,000 BC. Yeah, if you want to watch a great movie, though, that Mel Gibson's Apocalypto is always just the tip of my tongue when I'm recommending things to people.
It's a good movie. I haven't seen Apocalypto. Like, I think I saw it in theaters, and then that was the most recent time I've seen it. Maybe I remember liking it, thinking it was really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really violent. Mel Gibson's,
like it's about like the Mayans, the Incas.
I get the Mayans and the Aztecs mixed up, but yeah, it's about those South American brown people and how like the narrative is that these guys are in like a small tribe and they're getting kidnapped and their village is getting ransacked by the people who live in like the big city where they you know, sacrifice people to the gods and have those giant pyramids and everything. And so they have to go out into the jungle to the little tribes and grab people for those sacrifices. And you see, not through language, because there's no English. It's all in some ancient dialect, but I don't think there's subtitles, but you kind of just visually learn through the visual storytelling, because Mel Gibson's an amazing director, that this is a failing culture. There is famine, there's disease. And the reason that they're out here hauling all of these people up to be sacrificed is to try to stop it. They're trying to stop the rot that's consuming them from the within. And then you see it at the end that I'll call him the wizard, but you know, the head priest, the astronomer, probably a / astrologer, has been able to predict that there's going to be an eclipse, and he's like giving the king the nod so that he can like pretend like he's the one making the sun disappear. And you can just imagine the power that would create for your leader if you showed up because the boss said he was going to block the sun from the sky today, and you're like, bullshit, we'll show up, do it. And he went, oh, and the sun disappeared.
Oh yeah.
You got to
do what that guy says.
You got to do what that guy says. Like if you can, like Jesus, what could he do to me?
Yeah.
Don't say anything about Jesus. He hates that.
He hates that. He does not care for it one bit. Yeah, the Aztecs, like obviously it's like up in the air, but like the amount of people they purportedly sacrificed is like insane. Like thousands of people a year are some of like the lower estimates. Like
really,
they set the human sacrifice. They were like, it was just another Wednesday.
Gangbusters.
Like they killed
another Wednesday.
They just sacrificed so many people in their, I guess, to their gods or whatever. I don't know anything about like the Aztec religion. Like their
maybe
mythology.
that's why things went so well for them, Taylor.
Yeah.
Well, what Graham Hancock always...
you may not know this, Woody. It didn't work out. Like, you may not know this. I think Spain pushed their shit in. Like I think Spain showed up and was like, "Oh, like you guys are in Dark Age? Oh my God, that like like we've had gunpowder for like a real long time." Like
Aztecs are like, "Man, we should have killed all the inventors."
Yeah, we shouldn't have killed that guy who came up with that really mysterious shining bulb. Like, he could have helped. Like that was like a poor guy in history. The Aztec Ben Franklin. It's like, guys, great news. Then it just cuts to his head bouncing down stone steps.
What's interesting, like the Romans had little steam powered toys, but they had no concept to industrialize steam power. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's been a lot of discussion. There's the whole YouTube channels that go on about it for hours about could the Romans have been on the verge of an industrial revolution 1,000 years before the real one? You know,
that's totally realistic. Yeah.
Well, they break down a lot of reasons why the empire wouldn't have been able to support such a thing. Something about raw materials.
No, but like if they had stayed, if they hadn't been like invaded by Germanic tribes and all of that.
Well, I mean, eventually, yeah, but they, they already. Like what was to stop them from doing it then and there was the sort of the question. If they already understand steam power and the power of steam because they have these toys and basically like you put water under it and this little thing like walks around and spins and shit. And it's like, if you can do that, you make a steam drill to mine with and like any number of like locomotive type inventions.
Yeah.
Thousands of years or 8,000 years before.
We did messing up my empires, but didn't the Romans like go into Europe and maybe have the resources they'd need?
It was less about like access to the resources and more about the way their economy was set up, I think, and the way that an entrepreneur would not be rewarded for coming up with a new thing that didn't fit the mold of the empire. It's like, oh, you got a new way of look, everyone does it this way. They'd have been slow to change, or it would have been a difficult change. I can't remember exactly how he made sense of it, but it took him an hour and a half, and he called himself an historian, so I believed him.
I would trust him. Hour and a half? That's a lot of time. That's
a lot of time. A lot of ad
sounds
revenue.
Like a motherfucker who can't explain how to rob a jewelry store.
Yeah. We're like, Larry, tell us about the jewelry store. He's like, let me tell you something about the Incas. The human sacrifice that was going on there makes my crimes look mild. It's like, what are you talking about?
So succinct, to the point, and full of rich detail, though, when he talks about like ancient Mesopotamia and their farming and agricultural techniques.
He's just a
silk boys. The silk from the Nile River Delta. You got to understand. You've got 20 million square hectares being condensed there. When it all dries up, it's the richest farmland on this planet.
The Fertile Crescent,
the Fertile Crescent.
Yeah. Between the Tigris and the Euphrates, the birthplace of civilization.
Taylor, I crossed the Mississippi River today. That shit is like dried up. There's a huge beach. It's like 30 feet lower than it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had like a couple days of like sprinkly, gloomy shit, but we have not had big rain in a while, which is unusual around here. Usually we get more.
Do you need rain, or does it rain in like Minnesota or something, and that's where it comes from?
Don't the mountains like melt and feed it? Like, I don't think rain is the problem.
Well, the Mississippi isn't coming from mountains, I don't think. Like, at least in the U.S. From? It's actually a mystery.
Doesn't it comes like is there a water?
I don't know if I should believe.
No, it's actually unknown.
Yeah, the hole in the sky right below Canada.
They kept trying to follow it back to the source, but they get distracted.
They get lost. They get lost. All right. Well, let me guess where the Mississippi comes from, and I'm going to say it's the Great Lakes.
I bet that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I would guess. So we gotta figure out, where did the Great Lakes go?
Maybe we can solve this.
When's the last time either of you saw one of the Great Lakes?
I've
been a
never
minute for me.
confirmed it. Actually, that's not true. I've been to Detroit,
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
That's the coldest. That's one of the coldest like things I've ever felt. Was like the wind blowing up that fucking lake in Chicago.
Lake
I think
Itasca.
I was right. It does seem to originate in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah, so maybe once they get more snow and it melts.
Is it like a dwarf woman? Does it just spring out of the ground, or like where
it appear? No, it really though. Like I followed it up on Google Maps to
God damn it,
Minneapolis, and it goes to the St. Croix Falls and kind of just starts there. I guess.
Well, don't just use a map. Ask somebody.
No, it says that Lake. No, you're right, Kyle. It's you're both right. It's from a glacial lake in Minnesota called Lake Itasca.
Oh.
And
well, we need to pump some water in Lake Itasca. You know what? I bet it is anywhere.
It's
near
fine.
Flint,
It's such
Michigan.
an ugly river. Mississippi's fine.
Just like pump some water into there.
We need to get this moving.
If you're low on water, just pump water from the place.
Yeah, just like push.
I never heard those people in Flint, Michigan say that they don't have water. All I hear them say is they don't like the water they have. So I say, if you don't like it,
ingrates.
I hear there's some people in Lake Wanaconka who could use a little water, and maybe we'll take some of that Flint, Michigan water. And look, the way nature works,
who else really likes clean water?
It'll filter that dirty water out. It'll clean that water. By the time it gets to Mississippi, it'll be clean. All that Flint filth will have washed out of it.
Probably sooner than that.
You could be true. I mean, the Mississippi River is disgusting.
Lake Titicaca? That's not a real place.
If it melts from glaciers, we could just put more glaciers there.
Yeah, but I think that's a big to do.
Easy enough.
Ice machine, dude. Have you seen?
We could steal a glacier from Canada. They couldn't stop us.
Oh, can you just? Why don't they hook up to icebergs ever and like haul them in like rich guy style and have a good time with them? I would. If I was like a billionaire, I'd do shitty stuff like that. Like oh, you think my private jet's bad for the environment? I'm gonna hook up to the biggest iceberg I can fucking find. Fly it drag it across the planet to Tahiti. And we're gonna chip the fucking thing off in our drinks while we like, sit on the beach.
You know what I would do if I was like a big old billionaire? I'd be like, all right, I'm prepared to put billions towards environmental safety, cleaning lakes, getting plastic and shit out of the oceans. But we're gonna mete out my money, and it's gonna depend on cumulative U.S. BMI levels. If I'm doing my part to help eliminate this consumption problem, we all have to reduce consumption. So as soon as average BMI gets down to 30, boom, we're saving penguins. Also, I'm playing hardball. Every day it doesn't get below 30, I'm fucking killing some penguins. Also, let people know that you're playing for real. Yeah. Well, I mean, I picked a likable animal. Like no one would be upset if it's like, I'm going to, you'd have to take their babies also, but you can control them with an iron fist.
I like that.
Yeah,
they get real upset when I've seen like
people would get upset, but think of how many I would be the biggest lifesaver on Earth.
No,
and I would be the only one exempt from the BMI thing.
Meanwhile, you get bigger.
I don't think any of us
bigger and bigger.
I don't think that calculator works for any of us. I've seen where like a shitty penguin will like fuck up and like break their egg or kill their baby or something, and they'll run and kidnap somebody else's baby. But then they'll fucking get bored of it and they'll abandon it. And the original parent can't find him now because it's not like they left them at the 7-Eleven.
They all look the same. I've often thought that maybe there's something to it being hard to survive in an area that helps them technologically advance. Like you can't survive a Finland winter unless you've got your heating figured out, your housing figured out. You've got to have a bit of a civilization. You need to store food. Mm-hmm. If you can hang a hammock and fucking coconuts falling next to you all day long, then maybe you're not incentivized to advance your society in the same way.
That's true. Like it's like about winter. Like if you have to plan for winter, it'd be like you have to like save up food and resources and stuff. So it seems like about winter does that.
Meanwhile, you've got in South America where it's nice and cool, like temperate climate where you just grab stuff out of the rainforest and eat it as long as you control the panthers that are trying to eat you, I guess.
They're
inventing astronomy and calendars and predicting.
South America did that?
Of course, yeah.
They invented astronomy.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't invent astronomy.
Did they invent this?
How do you know?
Maybe they arrived at it on their own. You mean like they were not the first people to, discover like astronomy and all that? Wasn't that like the Middle East?
I don't think we know who
someone
the
in
first
Europe
people
navigated by the stars.
Yeah, like every culture used the stars to navigate. But I'm sure they figured it out at different times.
Well, I was just talking about like the Mayan calendar and how far back that went, and that's
okay.
They're utilizing the stars and stuff to do that.
Yeah.
And the sun at its like zenith or whatever from either side, right? They built those pyramids to like show things at certain days of the year with the shadows.
Those pyramids are pretty new. I was just watching Ed March, C90 Adventures. He rides a tiny motorcycle. He went from like Alaska, across Canada, across America, then to Argentina. Right? Can you picture how long? Oh my
God! Yeah.
Right.
So sucked.
Along the way, he visits like this Aztec or Mayan temple. It's like a pyramid. And then he finds out the thing is like 150 years old and he's British. So he's like, oh, yeah, actually, my bedroom is older than this pyramid.
All right.
Yeah. So, it's like, really? Because Oxford's been a university since the year 900. Like,
he may have found some pyramid they made for fucking tourists 150 years ago, but those pyramids go back thousands of years.
Which one?
Not according to a YouTuber I saw.
Yeah,
maybe not the one
YouTuber.
Yeah, Colin's doubting my historians.
I mean, you watched the Mel Gibson movie.
Oh yeah, Apocalypto. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, pretty hard. This makes sense.
Mad Max.
That classic film.
No.
Yeah, like the Japanese. Isn't it like Japan's full of mountains and difficult weather and difficult terrain? Weren't they? They've been fucking with China for a very long time. Always trying to invade China. Always invented them.
The Chinese invented paper, gunpowder, and maybe
the game
writing.
You start with sailing, I think.
Maybe writing. We probably don't know who invented writing. Like I feel like all the time they find some older thing.
Here's the thing, though. If they invented paper, were they wiping their ass with it? Probably not first. They're probably writing on it. So I think the Chinese did all those things, and then,
they did.
Our poor ignorant ancestors were over there being pale
and cold,
very cold,
very chilly.
Cold. Yeah,
that would suck. Just having months out of the year where it's like, there's still nothing to do, but now it's cold.
I've completely disregarded all your contrary evidence, and I'm sticking with my view anyway. That harsh environments make for advanced civilizations.
I think that's for hard people. I think that what's that whole thing where like necessity is the mother of invention. I think that if someone has a cold climate, that they will come up with a good way to deal with cold climates. I think if someone has like a megafauna in their area, like big giant animals that are hard to deal with, they'll learn hunting tactics to like deal with that. But I don't think it necessarily makes them the best and brightest at all things. I don't think that the people who live in the cold, hard to live in place are going to be the best scientists because it's hard there. I think that
there's more difficult places to live than just cold places.
I think a moderate place where not only can we are we challenged, so we have to get out of our hammocks and stop eating the coconuts, but we can also relax once we figure this shit out a little bit and start calculating and looking at the stars and making lenses and figuring out
things. Do have to be able to get on top of it. It can't be straight up desert or Arctic.
Yeah.
The Mayans that you brought up as your example of an advanced technological civilization, didn't they get shot by the Spaniards and just beaten?
Smallpox. They did get beaten pretty badly.
Smallpox. Come on. You know what? You
always go to the smallpox. I think muskets were part of it.
Guns and horses were a big part of it.
And smallpox. It decimated them.
They didn't have vaccines.
They didn't. You know what? Here's what I always wondered though. So we always talk about like how the white people brought the smallpox over to the West and would wipe out these indigenous peoples. Why didn't they have any diseases to like fuck up the white people?
They probably did. I bet because there's going to be diseases everywhere, right? Like there must have been shit that like all the Europeans started getting.
If they did,
I guess not as intense. Maybe it was like a milder shit, but like.
No, it would have happened if they did, right? We would have gotten, we got the...
right? Don't go to Mexico. Montezuma's revenge.
We'd go somewhere and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's yellow fever down there," but it's not like the Brits went back home with yellow fever and wiped out London. Like, I'm just curious why.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
no clue. Maybe the pathogen died on the boat.
Well, Taylor solved it here.
They're very seasick pathogens.
Oh, they got no Dramamine in that time for the pathogens.
They don't care for it. Yeah, they don't want that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't know. What is? It would be so tight if they found one of those like super ancient civilizations, way older than like Egypt or ancient China. Because
they don't know how old Egypt is.
Like, what is it called? You've brought it up. Gobekli Tepe.
Gobekli Tepe, that place in Turkey, that site they discovered that's well over 12,500 years old.
That's really cool. Stuff like that's fascinating.
That has those carvings and those enormous monolithic blocks that would have required not only someone who knew how to make monolithic blocks, but you have to keep in mind there has to be a system around the kind of person who is a craftsman and makes blocks like that. Uglug doesn't go out there, beat something with his club and eat it, and then go back to the mine that day. Uglug is this requires a miner who mines all day as a profession, and a craftsman who crafts all day as a profession, and like a religious society who's like, yes, we must have these things to please the gods, and little peons who are like, certainly do, right? All those things required a civilization of some like level is required to make those things happen, and we don't know anything about those people. And Egypt too, like the word that Egyptians use for the pyramid builders is not Egyptian. They call them by a different name as a different people.
Interesting. So
they don't know how old that
some
stuff
people
is.
think that like pyramid predates the Egyptians, like
yeah,
the really old
by
one?
many thousands of years. And then like the Sphinx, like they don't know how old that stuff is.
Yeah, you talked about the Sphinx recently, which I didn't know the Sphinx was older than some of the pyramids.
They don't know, nobody knows how old it is.
If you took someone from one of those ancient civilizations, right, and granted them immortality, right? So now this guy's 12,000 years old. I wonder what he'd be like, right? So biologically, let's assume he's the same, that humans haven't evolved in 12,000 years. He's working with basically the same, wetware that we are. Cool. Would he be a genius, having learned things for the last 12,000 years? Would he be a dumbass like me, still stuck on some outdated food pyramid that he learned in fourth grade?
He's still eating his 12 servings of grain a day.
Just bread is part of the foundation of this whole fucking thing. like, would he be stuck on these old belief systems? Would he be a genius? Like, I wonder what this guy would be like if he lived 12. I bet he'd be rich. Please tell me you figured out you can just dollar cost average into the S&P. It's easy to get rich. It's hard to get rich while you still have enough life left. But if you're going to live 12,000 years, God, you can spend 100 years getting rich. It's no big deal.
He could have been the first guy in the stock market.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Like the first, that's like, all right, market's open. We're trying this new thing. And he's like first guy in line. But I imagine someone like that would be unbelievably depressed. Like 12,000 years of meeting people and everyone dying. Like that'd be horrible.
Yeah. Is there a person disorder that can help you with that? Like, would the right narcissist just not care about anyone but themselves and have a dandy of a time for 12,000 years?
All right. So he's a 12,000-year-old psychopath. It's nothing but resentment for the rest of humanity. He's just looking forward to the day that we implode.
So that movie I just linked is kind of the exact thing you're describing. And these guys are sitting around discussing it with some really good actors that I like all those actors.
The Man from Earth?
Yeah, it's that one of them is claiming to be many thousands of years old, and they're having a discussion about it.
Really? Is the whole movie the discussion?
I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen that preview. Then it intrigued me. I added it to a watch list, and then when
can you show it, Zach? Because I think people are going to be curious about what we're talking about. But it's from 2007, which I like. I'm glad it's not from like 1992.
This looks cool.
I'm kind of curious.
I saw a little bit of the dialogue the other day somewhere, and it was really intriguing, well written stuff. Because they were talking. One of them was like, our brains had essentially been the same as they were for over 500,000 years, and that sort of man, he would learn as he went, he would grow as he went, but he would also be damaged, would he not? And they're like having this really interesting discussion. It's the doctor from Star Trek Enterprise. They had him a bunch of shit on his face, but he's a good actor.
Oh, this is
Wait,
they're all
the
they're
doctor
just in
from
a-
Star Trek Enterprise, Beverly Crusher.
That's Star Trek: The Next Generation.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Scott Bakula Star Trek.
Oh, I don't. Is the doctor a
You want me to sing the intro music? It's been a
Yes.
long way getting from there to here, and I'm not gonna let them hold me back. No, I'm not gonna. That one. 'Cause I gone straight.
Oh,
to the
this
heart.
doctor.
I enjoy those a lot. That and the ancient civilization YouTubers, the ones who think that the Earth was we had ancient civilizations that were advanced. Like one of the
Dude,
cool.
what about
Tepe.
the Atlantis one where it's like the Ring City? Have you seen that one?
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
No, I haven't seen Ring City.
You don't like
What
that
is it?
one?
Here's why I like the Younger Dryas thing and with the Sphinx in particular. So they looked at where when the sun lines up with the constellation of Leo was 11,600 years ago, which is when they think the Sphinx was built, like the crackpot scientists think anyway. So they think it was built by a civilization before the Egyptians, and they're like, why would they build a lion? Like during the Egyptian times, it was the bull. It was Taurus was the one in lined up with the path of the sun. But if you go back to when they think that comet struck and caused the Younger Dryas disaster and all that shit, it was Leo. So I thought that was a little interesting tidbit. I don't know. I like that stuff a lot. I spend a lot of time every morning. I come in here and I drink my coffee and I spend an hour at least watching YouTube shorts.
What's the most
Historical.
convincing one of those stories about either the Ring, the Atlantis thing, or Gobekli Tepe or whatever that's called, that's actually sucked you in and you've been like, I buy this?
There are some tool marks on the place where they mined the granite for the pyramids, or it's a good distance away, like 100 miles or something away. But there are these tool marks that are kind of weird. It's just like, how do they do that? How were they cutting that out like that? It looks like they've been machined. So that one always sticks out to me more than the crackpot shit. Like, as much as I like Randall Carlson, I've heard him be like, but their technology could have been something completely different than ours. They speak of the priests chanting. So I think maybe an acoustic energy was used to levitate these blocks. And it's like, no, dude.
Yes.
There's a reason why like every group of people came up with bow and arrows dependently. It's that tech makes sense. Like you know what I mean? You're not going to just branch off into magic acoustics instead of electricity or steam power or some shit. So that part's nonsensical to me. And anything ancient aliens is bullshit.
What about Atlantis? Is the story that it's like it's a city that used to be not underwater, now it's all sunk?
That's the one I was talking about, where a guy like using satellite Google satellites, he found this area. Yeah, is that the one? You used a name that I hadn't heard of. Is that the guy?
Topography. Yeah.
No, the topography I'd heard of, the guy who found like the ring area of Atlantis. I don't know. It was a cool video.
Dr. Indiana Jones.
That's low-key insult dick all night long.
Yeah, so according to the old tales or whatever, like it was a ringed city. So you had these rings of land and then water, repeating for like, I don't know, 3 rings of land or whatever. And I think they found a formation that's like that under the water somewhere. But like, you're going to have to go down there and find some like, I don't know, some marble statues.
Yeah,
or
something
some
neat.
Yeah, I need.
But
to
it's
see
totally
some
believable that there's like a city that is now underwater that used to not be.
They
It was
find
in
cities
northern
all the time.
Africa. It's on above. I don't know why I'm getting into this stupid.
No, it's in the Mediterranean or something.
Yeah, near the Mediterranean. That's where it should be, or some. I've heard people say in the Atlantic as well. Yeah, that's the idea. I don't know what that is on the left though. That seems like.
That's the Sarlacc pit.
Yes, it is. Oh my God! Can you believe Boba Fett made it out of there? What horse shit! What horse
That
shit!
is-
By the way, I'll tell you what. I'm not sure if I can beat up Amanda Nunez. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I know for goddamn sure I can beat up Boba Fett. I could beat the dog shit out of Boba Fett. The actor who plays him, put him in his armor. I don't give a fuck.
Wait, isn't that
old-
Pedro
Give him
Pascal?
a blaster.
Don't give him a blaster. I don't know. I'm glad you brought that up. Maybe Yeah, body modification. All right, I want to talk about ancient body modification. Maybe Wendigoon's ever had some of his creepy ass.
He's an expert. He mentioned before.
Because one of those things I saw was that I think it's that South American tribe that would practice the skull elongation, where they wrap the baby skulls, and you can see photographs of babies that have had it done, and their eyes are bulging. But what they end up with is these skulls that have been found down there, and they look like X-Files aliens. Okay, like legitimately, and they're real. They're human skulls that, through that practice, have been made to look like this. Now, here's what all of the ancient alien people always go to. They don't say those are alien babies, because of course we can DNA test them, or maybe, the rest of it's biologically human, whatever. They say, why were they doing that? Why did they want to look like that? Who were they trying to emulate? Maybe there was some sort of alien overlords that were coming down, teaching them agriculture and animal domestication. The beginning of the skill tree and Sith, pottery, and they had these big heads, and they were like, if only we could look like the gods. Because imagine, if you will, because in Christianity and all of the Abrahamic religions, right, like God looks like us. It's a key part of it. It's right there in the beginning somewhere. If your God didn't look like you, it is.
We are made in his image. Yeah.
Imagine if God didn't look like us. How
is that a real one? No,
I don't think. That's not a real one.
Beavis and Butthead's
That's a wood carving.
Well, I don't know what Zach's trying to do to me here, but there are real skulls. I don't know. Why don't you pull up that X-Files alien autopsy footage from the 90s too? Like,
you know what's funny? It's like, Kyle, I was putting like stock into what you were saying, and like this image, really
that just undermined your story.
God damn it, Zach.
So you think it was some alien emulation of? I was thinking like,
I don't think that at all. No. I'm just saying, like, I've often watched those shows where that's their pitch. Like, hey, this is why they did it, because they want to tie everything that's a little peculiar in the past to aliens, right? And if you can like rope that one in to make that sort of a supporting argument for whatever other kooky shit you've got, like chariots in the Bible being spaceships or whatever, like that's a good one to start with.
For sure. The Bible talks about, Wendigoon absolutely knows more about this, but like, you're familiar with like the Nephilim and all of that.
Oh, am I?
I would love
audience members who haven't heard of it. Can you bring them up to speed?
Yeah. So, all right, 5 minutes out the gate, we're in my zone. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
So in the Bible, there's mentions of things called Nephilim, which also often translates to giants or mighty men. And they're mentioned in the book of Genesis as being the children of what happened when the sons of God mingled with the daughters of men. So some people think this to be the idea of righteous people with unrighteous people, but some take that literally and think it's the products of angels breeding with humans. There's mentions of angels coming down to earth, so a lot of people draw that out of it. See, they got Kyle. It was
You're dangerous. I'm gonna keep the head on his swivel.
Yeah, Taylor's next, don't worry. Anyway, so giants are mentioned in the Bible. There's some famous ones like Goliath, for example. There's a giant that I believe it was Noah faced giants in his age. So there's a few places that they're mentioned specifically, but there's this idea throughout the Old Testament that they were a reoccurring thing. Like when it ever talks about they go to Canaan, that they see giants in the land of milk and honey that they have to wipe out. There's giants among the Philistines, what have you. So the idea is there's this biblical record of giants, and there's also a record of giants throughout other written histories. Like pretty much every group of people either had a legend or history of giants somewhere in their culture. They tend to pop up around the historical record. And the idea is, since the Bible is the oldest, in my opinion, the oldest, debated between that and like Zoroastrianism as being the oldest religion ever, that it's the first evidence of giants existing. And in the Bible, they're called Nephilim. So yes, Nephilim are like the starting route for a ton of crazy.
I'm sorry to interject.
Theories.
We had a guest like 2 months ago arguing with me, telling me that Zoroastrianism wasn't the first religion. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I watched that episode.
I do remember that. Yeah.
That was Aiden. Yeah.
I remember that became more of an argument than I thought it would be. And I was just kind of like, oh damn, like now we're like getting heated over like demons and shit.
If it helps Kyle any, the theory that most people have, like myself, who believe that Christianity was, or like the Bible, Judaism at the time was first, is that Judaism and Zoroastrianism were simultaneous, that they kind of branched out at the same point in the historical record. Which I have my own theories that Zoroastrianism is mentioned in the Old Testament as being other religions that are mentioned around the time of Abraham, but blah, blah, blah. You see what I mean? You got me in my zone.
No, that's interesting.
Well, I have been admiring.
Yeah, I like this stuff.
Education since the start. I was like, it's cool when we have like a professional level guest on the show.
I like where I'm a Sunday school teacher. Like, you know, a lot of what I do is talking to, you know, people my age and stuff. They're like, oh, well, you know, Christ wants us to live this way, blah, blah, blah. But there's also a lot of, all right, kids. So I found this verse in Genesis. I think it means that aliens came to Israel, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get to go on my whole rants and stuff. So
That's
so the
fun.
Bible is kind of exacting when they give the dimensions of something like the ark. Do they ever tell us about how tall these giants are supposed to be? Because that's so important.
yes, yeah, it does. Whenever it mentions Goliath, which is there's times that it mentions giants who stand with their waist at the height of man. That's more general. Goliath is specifically mentioned as I think 9.5 feet tall.
Yeah, shit. Well, all right.
Like Robert Wadlow
What?
size.
Now, when you say
disappoint
9.5 feet, are you accounting for like their feet being tiny? Did they actually use their foot as a foot in that time? Because
the
to be fair, these
Hold on.
are poorly fed Jewish men.
That's true.
About 5,000 years ago.
Correct.
These are
Okay.
small fellas.
Well, I think they
These
used the measurement
measurements-
from your elbow to your wrist or something like that.
They-
called,
They use
Fine.
they
That's what
use
a
the
foot
measurement
is?
of cubits. They
Cubit.
use the measurement of cubits. If I remember, it says that he was 6 cubits and a span, which a cubit's about 1.5 feet. So that comes out to a little over 9.5 feet.
Yeah,
6 cubits and a
that's
span.
that's the problem. So like, obviously, there you're dealing with some exaggeration because like I don't believe that in that time, even with like a pituitary thing or whatever makes people gigantic, that he'd have like the diet capable of surviving to manhood and being a 9 foot tall being.
No, you know what would
I mean?
be funny is like if like that's entirely true, but Goliath was one of those pituitary giants. And so he went out to fight David, and they're like, there he is, the giant. And he has like crutches. He's like, oh, look at that beast. And they just bully him with a stone. We were going to see if you guys had any medical intervention for him. God, don't kill him.
Old school.
Do you know about the
policing was
Do you
just
know about the
bullying
Potsdam
Goliath.
Giants?
That sounds familiar. The
So it's a
Potsdam
Pru-
Giants.
It was a Prussian infantry unit in like 1675. All right. Now, I can't remember if it was like the Prince of Prussia or whatever, the guy in charge, or at least in charge enough that he could have his own military unit at his whim, selected only the tallest men in the whole fucking Prussian Empire. Yeah.
Stupid question. Where is the tech tree in 1685? Like,
They got like shitty guns,
You're
like
early
Old
Imperial Age.
muskets,
You have access to
flintlocks, like
trebuchets.
flintlock stuff. Yeah.
shitty guns. There'd be a lot of cavalry and still like armor, I would imagine, and like silly hats with points on them, and probably lots, swords and pikes and shit.
swords, pikes, and the occasional.
We're
flintlock.
100 years from the American Revolution, and like guns being that good.
Yeah, they were like,
So-
that's the time they were figuring out, like, we got to phase out armor because we're now making like muskets that can blast through stuff.
Well,
How
anyway,
does go ahead.
this guy who I think was probably gay was like fascinated with tall men. Okay, it was like his jam. So he like searches the kingdom, and
It's
there's
gay
this
about
quote,
that.
There's this quote from him.
Hey, watch your mouth.
There's this great quote, and he's
You
like,
knew which
Wow, you can't
subreddits
have
I
a harem
followed.
of tall men or it's gay.
he's got this great quote. I want Zach to find it. Well, I've given some context clues to his identity. I just can't remember the fucking Prince of Prussia's name. But he said something like, "Keep your this, keep your that. Give me a tall man."
You may be onto something. with
but
that
but
one.
he was like, this would be a good video, I think, because like this regiment apparently was really tall guys, because he searched the whole like country and and he even had a breeding program where he was trying to like pair up the tallest women and the tallest men to make an even taller regiment. He never used them in battle because he was so beloved. They were so beloved.
What
to him.
on earth?
I'm looking at his Wikipedia. The height of the king who organized this, 5'3". And so imagine how monstrous this battalion, and apparently the minimum height was 6'2", which back then is enormous. Like,
Yes.
today,
Today,
400
6'2" is
years
usually
ago,
the tallest guy in a room.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like if you're 6'2", 400 years ago, like you're probably starting conversations walking.
I
by.
bet
he would
Find us the
retain
average
them-
height for the time, Zach, because that's important. But I would guess that you're like Harley, essentially. Like you're like a 6'5", 6'6" guy. Like Everybody's like, oh
7
shit, one of them are here.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd think there's something like wrong with you. Or they'd be just like jealous of like, wow, that guy gets to eat every day.
No, it'd be hard to be like, again, I think it would be, there's a reason people used to be smaller, and because it didn't work to be big. Like a big man can't like work. All right, if you're 5'5", you do a day's work. That gives you enough grain to support your 5'5" body or whatever from the boss. I just don't think the 6'6" guy can do enough work to get him enough grain to like make up the difference. You know what I mean? He's not working hard enough to get enough grain more than the other guy. We're all getting fed the same.
I wonder if we got shorter after agriculture. Is that something I made like when we like that people were taller, that like some hunter, or maybe this is like some other thing. They found like hunter-gatherer tribes that are pretty tall because they ate like so much meat, like Neanderthal, or I guess Neanderthals are like kind of a different thing.
Giant.
Yeah, it was the
circles
Nephilim.
back in. Yeah, there you go.
It all circles back in.
Does that mean the angels are black?
No.
What?
Angels are it's a total misconception that angels are even people, man. You've read the Bible. You've seen the orb of eyes.
I had to make a black joke. The athleticism. I know it's not theologically correct.
No, see, that's not canon.
The ophonym, right? The
canon. Oh, I love calling the Bible canon.
Yeah. Okay, so on the left is a hyena, on the right is a mastiff. Of these two.
Oh.
I mean, those are some real deal molars on the hyena.
Yeah, that's what I want to. That's how it like crushes bones. So from my David Attenborough knowledge, it uses those back molars back there to just crush bone and get to the marrow. That way, it doesn't matter if the lion is the top predator. There's going to be leavings that only the hyena can access by cracking those bones. They think that's how early man first developed his taste for protein and meat, and sort of took that step because like bigger brains need more calories, and they think the only way we could have gotten it is by scavenging and getting the marrow from like the kills of saber-toothed cats or whatever the fuck.
You don't think that it's mushrooms like Joe Rogan?
I don't think that's crazy to say, but I don't.
It's crazy.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I saw a short of Joe Rogan today, and I guess the guys who originally discovered and deciphered the Dead Sea Scrolls, the only one on that team that was not like religious, said that it was a complete misunderstanding, the whole Judeo-Christian religion, that the Jews were trying to hide their practices from the Romans, so they hid what the religion was actually about in a bunch of like fairy tales and nonsense. But he thinks it's about, again, mushrooms. That guy thought that it was, God would rain, and then suddenly these mushrooms would pop up when God sent the rain, and they'd eat God's mushrooms, and they'd trip out. And
that seems even less likely than it being the word of God. like truly, it's more likely it's the word of God than what you just said.
Well, we see that, but we see that in those little cultures, right? Those little shamanic cultures that do have like a medicine man who's doing some fucking mushrooms in there, and that's their religion. He's the one who comes in. The guy who's high as fuck is the one who comes out and is like, so first the moon was small, but then a woman, and they're making the nonsense up off their high gourds, right? So I don't know. It makes a little sense to me.
Another great job, but I mean that's why those societies cap out at 14 people. Like there's
all of us messed up with our career path, but it's because it's clear that organized religion is the place to be. Organized religion is the place to be.
That is where it really belong.
Yeah,
it really is. I wish I believed. I truly do, and I wish there was something more to believe in. It would be so fucking comforting.
Give me some proof.
Give me just a little.
I've been on this earth for nearly half a century. I haven't seen a shred of evidence.
You got this book where God is just popping off all the time. Anytime he sees some shit he doesn't like, he's sending an angel or a flood or some pestilence or some bears. You show me one magical bear. If a bear walks down the fucking streets of my Atlanta neighborhood, I'll believe. That's all I need. Well, all right, not any bear. If they're like, it's a circus bear, it got out of that. But like a magical bear shows up, I'll believe.
There were magical bears. They were murderous bears, if you recall.
Magical murderous bears.
I would like a bear that flies. I would believe I saw that.
I told that story from the Elisha one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where
hey,
I don't know. Dank, are you familiar with the Bible? Like, or did you just like go to religious schools and like they kind of drilled it in your head, but you didn't?
They drilled that into my head, but I was just kind of like, it's not for me. So yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, I was in the same situation, except I was so goddamn scared of hell. I was like anal about it. Like, I got to take this serious. This is real. Like, and I remember as a kid, like my thought process being like the teacher would say something in Sunday school or whatever about like hell's very real and people will end up there if they don't believe in Jesus. And it is torture for all eternity. Now let's talk about Job, or let's talk about Jonah and the whale. And I remember like all the other kids, like the teachers, the parents, they just kind of move on. And I would be like the one person who like was treating it like it was truly real in my head, where I'm like, guys, we can't be talking about Jonah. Hell is coming imminently. We need to be prepared for this. We need to be going for the big fish first, guys. And over getting older, I was like, damn, if a lot of these people really believed this, they would have been acting like I was as a kid. Like, God, hell is there. It's imminent. We need to, everything we do needs to be fixated on not ending up in hell. What could matter in this material plane? There are people like that.
There are people,
but the people who told me,
you see them, when we see the people who believe, we stop and go, oh, that's not a real Christian. When you see a real Christian, the rest of them in the room are like, oh, he's not one of us. Because the guy who actually reads that book and does what it says cannot survive in mainstream life anymore. Like that way. That doesn't work.
Yeah. See, one of the things that I do videos on like Celtic myths and stuff like that, because a lot of them are like dying out and a lot of people don't know about it. But there was one story where it's like Celtic myths are things like the Kelpies, which are magical horses that could walk on water, and there's also things like the Nuckalave, where it's like this half man, half horse that had like a breath that would just rain pestilence down and all that. But then there was another story I read, and it's called the Ghillie Dhu. Right now, the Ghillie Dhu was a guy that lived in the forest, and he had clothes made of leaves and shit like that, which is where ghillie suit, that's where it comes from. Like the Ghillie Dhu, right? The guy that was wearing twigs and stuff like that and leaves, and sometimes kids would get lost in the forest. They would come across the Ghillie Dhu. The Ghillie Dhu would say, well, it's night time now, it's too dangerous to go out, come back to my house, and like the first light in the morning, I'll take you back out. He would feed them, they would go to bed. The next day they got up, he would lead them to the forest and go, your village is that way, be more careful in the woods. And I'm like, why is this a fantasy story? That's just a guy that lives in the woods. I was like, see if he was like talking to the animals, or like the trees moved when he sang, or like moved out the way, or there was some.
He's a forest guardian for lost travelers.
He was just ticket to meet the fairies or something. I was like, this isn't a fantasy story. I completely believe this happened.
I completely believe there was an eccentric lunatic dressed in vines who would say, I'm familiar with this small regional area, allow me to assist you.
That I live in. It's like, this is where I live, my forest. And everyone's like, this mysterious creature. It's not a mysterious creature, it's some guy that lived in the woods. Like that's all it fucking was. But I never
maybe that was an early on. Maybe that was an early on myth, before there was a precedent set that they had to be fun, and like they just started telling that one, and then someone pops up later with the pestilence centaur, and then they start moving forward with the good ones. Because I imagine, like, look at the Roman pantheon, the Greek pantheon rather, they didn't hit that out of the park on the first try, guaranteed. Like they probably had to workshop Zeus and the rest of the cast, because that's a way harder thing to hold together than Christianity, where it's kind of one guy and it all comes from him. That's what I remember thinking that was so cool as a kid, and like as a kid being like, obviously this is fake and Jesus is real, but like, man, it would be cool if it was these like semi-mortal people that were in charge. I feel like they'd be able to empathize with me a little more.
With flaws. They're very flawed.
With flaws.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but our modern superheroes are the Greek pantheon. Like it's the same shit. Like, and if you look at the powers of those Greek gods, they're about equivalent to a Marvel superhero. Like most of these guys aren't like, it's not like Zeus comes down and says, water into wine and the earth explodes and you're made of gas now and you're made of trees. Like he can't do that shit. Like he's Zeus. He's the god of fucking thunder. He can change it. He's got powers, but he's not limitless.
But they all have to do with like all those fucking getting laid.
Some of them are fast.
Every meme is just like every Greek story could start with just, unfortunately, Zeus was horny.
Yeah.
Like every single one.
It is. Every single story about Zeus is like, and then he used his shape-shifting powers to gaslight a woman and fuck her, and 30 million people died. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, and then all of Athens fell into the sea. And it's like, oh well, this is written by someone from Sparta with some, an axe to grind, probably. It's funny, like thinking how much of history that like we think of as like objective fact is like something that got slipped in there, where some guys like imagine like Alexander the Great was most likely gay, but imagine if he was like a fucking conservative priest, like pastor level, like I'm not gay. I'm gonna suck a dick in front of you to show you how much I don't like it. Like that level of thing. Like it would be funny if like one of his enemies slipped that in after the fact. Like he's a great warlord, this and that. Yeah, but his buddy Paris, he was fucking him in the ass. Did you hear about that? No. But this is the year 800 BC. Throw it in.
Was it Nero? Was it Nero that had a femboy?
It was. Now that's the right one. It's obviously not the name I said, but.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was Caligula or Nero, one of the two. Yeah. Basically, his wife died, and he was beyond distraught. But then his little wine boy that brought him his wine, he kind of realized, "You look a lot like my wife.
Yeah,
you are
and
my
the more
wife
wine
now.
you drink, the more you look like her.
Basically,
so
it was
bring me some more wine.
It was
honey.
basically some weird shit where he fucking like made him grow his hair long and everything, and was going around everyone and was going, "This is my wife. You will refer to her by her real name, my wife." And all the Roman soldiers who are terrified of him are like, "Yes, your wife looks lovely today, Nero." Yes. It was one of those like nobody wanted to say anything. Everyone was too scared.
The emperor has no clothes, moment. Like
it's scary.
I remember I was reading this thing about, there's that old thing about Nero, playing the equivalent of the violin or a fiddle or whatever on the balcony of his palace as Rome was burning, right?
Yeah.
And I was reading this, and this was a while ago. It was some guy who was clearly obsessed with all these emperors, and he's like, little known fact, that's actually false. He wasn't playing the violin while Rome was burning. This is used to malign Nero's character. And then like the next paragraph is like, he was in the basement molesting children while it burned. Like, and it's like, this is worse. Like this is much worse than where we were at a few minutes ago.
And I watched Graham Hancock was on Rogan this week, and I love Graham Hancock. And
what does he do? I don't know him. Is he a scientist?
He's a writer. He's this British writer. He was the one who wrote about that Younger Dryas event where the comet hit Earth 12,000 years ago or something like that. And we had that, and it brought us out of the last ice age. And he thinks that it's there was a somewhat advanced civilization back at that period of time that was wiped out by
12,000 years ago.
Yeah. That was wiped out by that event. And he thinks that's also why like so many cultures from around the world have the stories of the global flood. Because he thinks that the impacts that came from this comet strike melted a lot of glaciers, like flash melted them and flooded a lot of the earth and completely brought us out of that ice age.
Did they say like where they think the old civilizations were?
Yeah,
that's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know about this? Oh, it's really interesting.
No.
There's this site in Turkey whose name is very difficult to pronounce, where they have these giant megalithic structures and tooled technology that would have been used to create them. And like modern archaeology states that the people that were alive at that time were like hunter gatherers, but these were clearly created during that time period and by a civilization that must have had organized labor, which is a thing that modern archaeology doesn't think happened until much later on. But it would have you would have had to have like skilled craftsmen who are spending their time learning a craft and practicing that craft, not foraging for food. There would have had to have been another class of people foraging for food for them.
Would it be close to Gobekli Tepe?
Yeah. You actually got real close. It's like Gobekli. Yeah. It's hard. Gobekli Tepe or something like that. That's the site. Yeah. But he wasn't talking about that so much this week. He was talking about the Americas and some of the stuff they found in the Amazon rainforest, where they found evidence of irrigation and stuff like that in the Amazonian rainforest. Really cool stuff. I forgot where I was going with this. I thought it related to our last
I think
topic.
on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think one of the things he spoke about that sort of related to our last maybe Elon Musk topic. But regardless, he's got a new book out.
Maybe the space travel aspect of it was where it tied in. No, I'm just trying to throw clues
because he was
out.
talking about the technology to prevent a future asteroid collision. and how one of the things that's important for that is for private industry to move forward with their plans to mine asteroids, because that's the same tech. If they can make that technology profitable, then we'll have that resource to potentially like nudge an asteroid out of our path.
If you're
Because
mining asteroids, you might be putting them in orbit or something.
that'd be cool. That's
Right?
that would be. I don't know if that's possible. I don't even know if that's safe. Like, is that the? I wouldn't trust GE to do that. Would you? Like if I heard like so, General Electric has brought a 8-kilometer asteroid, mostly composed of titanium and rare earth elements. Not on Earth though, is it? Into our close Earth orbit. If you look into the northern skies early in the evening, you can see it. And what if they miscalculated it? It fucking falls into the Pacific Ocean. Well, no more Californians.
I hear you. I wonder how. I don't know. I really don't have a good grip on Earth's atmosphere's ability to burn things. Like, I know that it burns most stuff, right? Things are hitting us all the time and they never land. If you wanted to get rid of a satellite, just nudge it towards Earth. It burns up, doesn't hit the ground. Everything's fine. How far does that extend? Does that reach mineable asteroids?
No, it doesn't. That stuff that's several hundred meters big, that stuff makes it through. Like you see those a lot collide. Like if it's starting, I think when it enters the Earth, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but roughly speaking, if it enters the atmosphere and it's 100 meters, it's gonna hit. Now that's not a world-ending type thing, but something that's 1 kilometer, I think that destroys an entire city. Like that's London gone.
No, that would like destroy so much more than the entire city, right? Because when you get to a critical mass, it's not so much the initial impact, it's the seismic fallout and then like the dust clouds and things that ruin environments. Am I talking out my ass? Does that sound right?
I know I would be if I were talking now. That's
well, here we are. I was just reading about Gobekli or whatever the fuck that is.
Gobekli Techie or something.
I'm
going
to start reading. This is so fascinating.
Get the book, dude. I've got the book on. I got it from Audible. All right.
Oh,
and
Audible and get it.
the cool. So Graham Hancock is he's got a nice reading voice and he's very passionate about this. He's traveled the world. So one of the things is like a lot of the stuff that he talks about. Modern archaeologists has really shit on this guy for a long time until slowly they found more and more evidence to support his theories. They found the asteroid craters. They've found the sites like the one in Turkey, and so he's very passionate about this. But he's been getting shat on his entire career until like the last 5 years or something like that. And so hearing him read this stuff is great. Chiz just got his newest book, and I think it focuses more on the Americas, and he believes that there were humans in the Americas 130,000 years ago. It's very interesting stuff. I really like the guy.
I have asteroid stats. So an asteroid the size of a car would burn up and it's not a problem. An asteroid the size of a house would flatten most buildings within 1.5 miles of ground zero. So I would have thought a house-sized asteroid would be not a big deal. That may burn up, but I don't know. An asteroid the size of a 20-story building would leave a wake the size of Paris. And if it's a football field, you'll feel it 1,000 miles away. 7.7 magnitude earthquake, I mean to say. And a half mile would be a global problem.
Yeah.
So I would think that you wouldn't mine anything less than a football field, right? And that's real dangerous.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. Are you familiar with the Tunguska event?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I just saw it. It's like 1908 or something like that.
Yeah.
No, me too. I'm also familiar with this.
So the Tunguska event, this asteroid struck Siberia in like early 1908, and it was sort of, no one knew about it because Siberia is a gargantuan unpopulated area.
Tuskegee experiments.
No, that's different. That's when they came up with that harebrained idea of putting a black man in an aeroplane.
The Manhattan Project.
It'll never work.
The Manhattan Project. That's close.
Grease everywhere.
So let's name experiments that we're familiar with. No, sorry.
The Tunguska event is where this asteroid struck Siberia in 1908, and it flattened a gargantuan area. It did this thing called airburst. It didn't strike the ground. It blew up in the atmosphere. Like it was coming in. It got so hot. It didn't. I don't understand the physics behind this sort of thing, but it went boom, and it went boom like a big nuclear weapon, and it flattened this enormous area. And when I say flattened, I mean
770 square miles
of trees laid over flat. and nobody knew about it because there weren't any fucking people out there. And it wasn't until like there's pictures of it. And they figured, a bunch of people went deaf and shit, and their windows.
So it made sound.
It was very loud.
The trees fell over, and it made sound. No one was there. All right.
Yeah. I see. I got you now. Yeah. But something like that had happened over, a major city. It's gone. It's going to happen one of these days, and it's going to be disaster porn. It's going to be the worst thing we've ever seen in our lifetimes. 100%. Like that. The biggest disaster I think in my lifetime was the tsunami in like 2004. That hit.
Was it that long
Indonesia?
ago?
I think it was, and it hit into the Indonesian tsunami. My guess is it's 2004.
Okay.
Because I want to say I was in high school when it happened. I think.
I want to talk. I'm not sure
that
if
killed
I'm on
like
the
a
same
quarter
one.
million.
I thought I was on YouTube when it happened.
Well, there was another one
Uh-huh.
later on, whose date I'm not sure about at all. Maybe 2010. There was another tsunami.
2004 is the one you're referring to. Yeah,
Yeah, 2004 is the one that killed like roughly a quarter
killed over
million people.
200,000 people.
Good gosh! Now, how big is the one I'm thinking of? I have like
It was smaller, but
thought
pretty
it was
serious.
6 digits. Am I crazy?
I don't know. And then there was the Fukushima disaster where that tsunami hit Japan and the reactors went.
Have you guys ever looked into the Grand Canyon?
I haven't been there.
I
No.
have.
Literally.
I stood at the top. Looked into
So
it.
at the Grand
Flew a
Canyon,
helicopter through it.
there's an ancient city that was there was like a cave system that people carved out, and they found a whole bunch of artifacts, the same type of artifacts you would find in Egypt. All the same stuff you would find in the Grand Canyon.
Huh. So like the same kind of
There's a
carvings,
45-minute
hieroglyphs. you mean?
documentary about that too from the History Channel.
There's so much about history we don't know. Like
Yeah.
I would 100% buy that there are entire civilizations that we just don't know about, like that have been buried or a tectonic movement hid them. Like if we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years, like there's got to be older stuff.
Yeah, I really like
agree.
those younger Dryas theories by Graham Hancock, like the idea that comet strike, flash melted all that ice and caused a great deluge, and that's why you've got this worldwide great flood myth. And when he talks about Gobekli Tepe with the huge structures that seemingly were built using technology that shouldn't have been around, we should have been hunters and gatherers, clubbing around with sticks and pointy rocks. But here are these big monolithic structures that require teamwork. And you can't have like a group of, you might think, well, yeah, the hunter-gatherers, get them together in a team, but somebody's got to be growing food for there to be this multiplication of like effort to food so that some people can just work and become craftsmen and have specialized jobs. It's this big step up on the tech tree when humanity was like, yeah, Farmer John makes enough food for all of us. We can do whatever we want. I'm a blacksmith. You'll be the cow herder. You'll be the sheep
Figuring
herder.
out agriculture really,
You're a
really
pedophile.
boosts everything.
You can't stay.
Or you can become a special man in a coat
Actually,
who has access to the kids.
the pedophile's like, actually, I saw a bright light in the sky, and they said it was A-OK. Really? How bright was it?
I found golden tablets in central Missouri.
I don't know if we ever discussed, and maybe I'm wrong. I've talked about it in my private life, but like the missionary who went to the island of uncontacted peoples and got
I was
arrowed
just
the
thinking
fuck
of
up.
him.
Interesting story as well. There's the woman who farted very loudly in like the Dollar
Can
General.
we do the mercenary, dude? Have we
Or the
discussed him on the
missionary.
show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Big
What is
difference.
it? That is different. Yeah, if he was a mercenary, he would have fared better.
he would have fared much better. So I want to say it's a very remote island off the coast of India, I think, because now
Way
they're trying to
off
get
the coast, though. Like, did
Yeah.
you see it on a map? I'm gonna try
I
and
think it's
find
called
it.
North Sentinel Island.
and these people on this island are like an uncontacted tribe for the most part. And they've been genetically isolated for like 30,000 years or something like that, some absurd amount of time. They're their own people. And this dumbass missionary goes over there and tries to press his religious beliefs on these people. And go figure, they shoot him full of arrows. Apparently got him in the eye. An accurate bunch over there. They
Nice.
arrowed him the fuck up, killed his ass. And now, like, I believe that the U.S. is asking India to go in and recover the body, and the Indians are like, no, we don't. We call that Death Island. No, last time we sent some people over there, we sent them a bit of curry, and they never came back. They were eaten. They were eaten by the island.
We should like airdrop them just modern snacks,
Cheese
because they would love that. Like, they'd probably be really happy. Or if they just like, if they saw an Indian guy just like slingshotting them Pringles or something.
You joke? Someone did that. They pull up on a boat to the shallows and they start throwing coconuts at these motherfuckers on the beach. And they're collecting those coconuts like it's fucking They're like, oh, fucking free coconuts. And they're just like you know, they keep like dropping them, you know, when like a kid or
they're
like
so happy with their coconuts.
In the Tom and Jerry cartoons, the mouse would like keep trying to get all of the cheese, and he'd have it like 8 times taller than him, but he keeps dropping it all, and he wants more cheese, but he just every time he gets a new piece of cheese, he drops 2 more, and that's how they are with these coconuts.
That's their culture. Like 50 years from now, like grandkids are gonna be like, Grandpa, tell me a bit about when the coconut man came.
Dude.
Oh, you won't believe it, son. This man came with it was, if it was a dozen, it was 1,000. I tell you, even coconut. But I mean like real snacks, like stuff they can't get Reese's Fast Breaks there.
They didn't even, they had like wooden tools for ages, right? That was the best they could do. And then a boat accidentally ran aground on shore, right? And I think a helicopter came and rescued the people off the boat. They didn't even go on the island because they were like attacking them from the island. And there's a reason for that I'll circle back to. But now they have metal tools. They've been taking slices of metal off of this sunken ship for like 30, 50 years now. And just now they have like wooden or metal arrowheads and stuff like that. It turns out that a long time ago, like in the 1800s, this guy came to their island and treated them like animals. Right? They're like measuring their dick and they're like measuring their dick to see how long it is and like looking at their breeding, writing down notes and treating them like probing them and shit. And ever since then, as soon as a white guy comes to the island, they're like, fuck that. And they just start immediately shooting arrows at him. And this missionary was like, it could be a little dicey, but I'm going to try and bring them the word of God. And they're like, no way. We are not interested in your fake God. And they killed him. God did not protect him.
Here's
the great coconut in the sky protect us.
Here's let me link it to you, but you probably want to like screen this on a different screen, Woody, because even though it's like Nat Geo style nudity, like you can still see some dicks on there. I'm not sure how strict they would be, but this is just from a Twitter thread of this guy who is like apparently obsessed with this whole thing you were just discussing of that guy going over there in the 1800s. So the first part is just a picture of this dude who's like a fucking foot taller than all these other adults because he got nutrition and wasn't like waiting for the coconut man to show up. But this guy's beginning of explanation is there's a lot of talk about how the missionary killed by the natives of North Sentinel Island. They're probably so aggressive because of this weirdo, Maurice Vidal Portman. So here's a big thread about this creeps and some of facts from my decade-long obsession with the island. The Sentinelese are often described as uncontacted. That's not true. They had a very significant contact in 1880 with Commander Portman. Portman, the black sheep son of some minor noble, was assigned by the English Royal Navy to administer and pacify the Andaman Islands, a job he pursued from 1880 to 1900 with the full measure of his own pervacity.
Pervacity. So he's a pervert. I had
He's
to
a big
process the
pervert.
word. Yeah.
Portman was erotically obsessed with the Andamanese, and he indulged his passion for photography by kidnapping members of various tribes and posing them in mock Greek homoerotic compositions.
Nice.
During his 20 years in a sexualized heart of darkness, Portman measured and cataloged every inch of his prisoners' bodies with an obsessive love on genitals. This is something from the guy's diary. Lending support to Mary Louise Pratt's notion of bodyscape and theocolonial gaze, male genitalia appear to have been a particular point of fascination. Oh, this is not from this. This is analysis of it. Sorry. Appear to be a particular point of fascination for Portman and Molesworth. One man is described as having, quote, atrophied testicles, both being hard but the size of hedge sparrow's eggs. The same individual is also marked by the observation penis small with moderate size prepuce. Another one, penis larger than usual, summarizes a man named Churko. Tlee is described as the chief of Interview Island and a man of considerable authority and intelligence, but also equipped with a bad temper and genitals that are, quote, fully developed but small. See, he's like he was trolling in 1880. Just imagine being a Neolithic person spending a few weeks in this guy's rotating menagerie. Portman spent most of his time in the Greater Andaman Islands, but in 1880 he landed on North Sentinel. The natives fled, and his party ventured inland to find a settlement which had been abandoned in haste. But they located an elderly couple and a few children they were able to abduct. The couple died quickly, likely from ailments to which they had no immunity. The children spent a few weeks with Portman doing God knows what, after which he returned them to the island. Portman returned on a couple occasions, but the Sentinelese hid each time. The story related by the children was certainly passed down among the 100 or so inhabitants of the island, and even today. Portman's fatal kidnapping is just beyond a human lifetime. So when the Indian government attempted contact and anthropologists in the 1960s and 70s, the Sentinelese were understandably hostile to outsiders. In 1981, a cargo ship named the Primrose ran aground on the coral reef surrounding North Sentinel. The crew radioed for assistance and settled in for a long wait. But in the morning, they saw 50 men with bows on the beach building makeshift boats. The crew called for an emergency airlift and were evacuated, and not a moment too soon. Rough waves had thwarted the Sentinelese in their attempts to board, but the weather was clearing. The ship and its cargo were left at the island, awaiting discovery by Neolithic eyes. Today, you can see the gutted remains of the Primrose on Google Earth. Imagine climbing on board that ship, a completely alien vessel filled with alien things. Imagine seeing simple machines for the first time, a hinge, a latch, a wheel, things that would instantly make sense in a satisfying way. Others would be so incomprehensible to avoid notice. I have never been able to find out what the cargo was on the Primrose in all my years of reading. There are about 100 tons of some sort of consumer product on board, and I'm curious what it was. But even absent the cargo, think about all the things that must have been on that ship. In the 90s, anthropologists returned to the island to make new attempts at contact. They were met with a different attitude. Not friendly, but they were willing to accept gifts. Here's a video of the encounter. You can notice that these pre-Iron Age people now had metal weapons, like the knife carried by this man. They had scavenged metal from the Primrose and cold forged it into tools. This just goes on for a while, so I'm gonna stop there. But
am I the only one who doesn't think that these uncontacted tribes need to be preserved like some sort of fucking Neolithic like world in a bottle or something, like a snow globe of ancient times?
You think that we should catalog their penis sizes?
Look, we should go in there and just
a confident man, but a small dick.
Weird. He got leadership position at 5 inches.
Lots of power, but small.
Much larger than right, but both quite firm.
And I also don't believe that they like walk in there and they see a latch the first time and they're like, "Oh!" Like I don't.
You don't think so?
If I walk on an alien ship and there's something that I've never even conceived of on there, I don't see it and go, of course, this is how you do this. Like I feel like you need some sort of like teaching method to get you off, you know?
That's
like
racist.
What?
Yeah, I don't know, Taylor. Like it's weird because I feel like the kinds of things that I would learn from are no longer simple. We figured out the simplest of simple things, like the screw and the wedge and the wheel and such. But these guys, they didn't have all that worked out. I wonder what
you could totally see something that you hadn't personally worked out, but you could immediately recognize utilitarian nature of it and you'd be like, so that's how that works. Like if you found a wheelbarrow but with no wheels, but when you grab the handles, it just started levitating. You'd be like, oh shit, look at this. It's a levitating wheelbarrow. And to them, they see a wheelbarrow and they're like, oh shit, we've just been dragging things around on flattened out logs since time immemorial.
We were told for thousands of years, you will not improve on the laid down log method. Like there's one guy there who crops up every few generations who's like, God, fucking Ubudo over there, thinking he's going to change the world with his latches and his knobs. And get this. He chopped a tree into segments, right? Keep listening. Hilarious, I know. Puts a hole in the middle, a stick through that, rolls it around, calls it a wheel. What's wrong with pulling a log, Ubuntu? You're too good for log pulling. That's probably what they go through there.
He is too weak to pull log.
I was thinking
laugh at him.
Like, ever think like at what period of time would you be a genius? Right?
Probably never.
I'm no astronomer, but my basic understanding of stars and Earth rotations and the planets would be pretty elite at some period of time.
Yeah, but you couldn't prove it, right? I feel like it depends. If you really put some thought into it, I feel like you could go back to like the early 1900s and you could really get some shit done, right? Like you would hire the experts to put your ideas into practice. Like I don't know how to make penicillin, but I know how to make penicillin, right? It's bread mold. So if I got myself like a couple of like 1897 scientists together and was like, look, I don't know when penicillin was invented, by the way, clearly. I think it was early 1900s.
1930s, I think.
In any case, I'd be like, look, there's this thing called penicillin. It's literally bread mold. I don't know if it's a special bread. I don't know if we gotta get some rye or some pumpernickel. I don't know if it needs to be moist first, if somebody needs to poop on it. But this bread mold cures everything. Absolutely everything that we've had a problem. Syphilis, say no more. 3 days, you're good to go.
Dude, I have the same problem of not exactly knowing enough to be useful. Like, guys,
Exactly.
I know that with a lemon or a potato or something, I can make a battery. That's as much as I know. So we're going to be poking around with wires and shit for somebody. Anyone have a small light bulb? We can see if it's working.
Also, by the way, has anyone invented wires yet? Shit. All right.
I'm going to need to go.
You know, like, I'm so fucking dumb. Like, I would be trying to like come up with a thing, like an invent the math needed to prove that like a star placement there was different. But really, I just have to go to one of the smart people at the age and be like, hey, that star I'm pointing at right now, tonight, remember where that is? And then the next morning, I'd be like, it's over there now.
I'm pretty sure
I don't know what it means, but you do. Like, we're moving.
I'm pretty sure I know how to cure the bubonic plague, or at least the bubonic plague. I read like two different things. One sounds very painful, but it involves lancing the boils and cauterizing them. Apparently, that's a big part of curing it. And you'd get those boils in like your armpits or in your lymph nodes and stuff. And the other involved taking the scabs from other people who had the plague off of said boils, drying them out, and then the person snorts them. And
so
it's
like some kind of.
I feel like we're pretty close to
vaccine in a way.
surviving that scale disease in Game of Thrones with Kyle's techniques there.
I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Like I want to say I read that like the Arabics had figured out that if they took the dried scabs of a plague victim and ground them up and then snorted them, that was like a vaccine for bubonic plague, because you're getting a weakened version of the plague.
I'm way too much of a snowflake, because in my head all I can think of is Arabics racist?
No, I think it's meant hurts. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. No, I don't think. I think it's just improper grammar more than anything.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't say anything without wondering. I think I referred to Mexicans as Mexicans a little while ago, and I had to process it. No, that one's okay.
Yeah, it's weird how there's been sort of a derogatory like thing put on Mexican, right? But it's because so many people are like, yeah, there's damn Mexicans.
Yeah, and
that sounds bad.
Actually, that's an appropriate way to refer to Mexicans. Okay, I'm clear. Yeah, anyway, it's tricky now.
I wonder what the next one to go is. Like, when is person of color going to revert back to what colored person was? Where they're like, actually, we don't like this either. Like, and then they decide to move that to something new.
I just hope Savage American becomes a thing.
Oh, I wanted to
I think that's an uphill fight you guys are waging. Tough.
I've got my Savage American jersey on here.
Oh, yes, you do.
I really like that jersey.
Actually, while you wear that jersey, you're allowed to say it.
That's right. I am one of the tribe, technically.
One of the tribe. Yeah, you're at least as Native American as Elizabeth Warren.
I knew that was coming.
Probably more. You've got high cheekbones. Not very dark hair though.
No, I don't. My mother was blonde, but Dad's got black hair. Yeah, a nice little mixture there. I like
evened out.
Yeah, even.
I like what would your gift be if you were showing up at one of those islands? Like it's got to just be something that you can carry. How about that?
Man, I think a fucking sword. Like first
I was going to bring a shield, like Captain America's shield
for them.
They flip it over and put rice in it or something to start cooking it. I feel like
they might like that,
like a legit sword, like a nice, real chopping sword, or maybe just a good axe, like a good splitting maw or something like that. Like something that's both impressive to look at, clearly alien to them because of its workmanship, and utilitarian. Like if you just give them like a fucking iPad, like where are they going to charge that bitch up at? Right? That is God for like 12 hours. However long
you need a potato and some wires, and the rest I don't understand.
I think they're going to have a hard time charging it with a low current tater. They're gonna eat the tater. Like halfway through, like charging that thing, they're like, "Can we just eat the potato?"
Because you just like give them seeds.
Oh,
That
you're
would
talking
require
about introducing them to
patience.
agriculture? That's a long talk when we're drawing in sand.
What if you show up with some barbed wire and teach them about the fence?
I don't want to bring them anything that they're going to immediately use to kill me in hopes
You
that I
want to
have.
teach them domestication? I think that might be even harder.
Is it?
You're right. After I said it, I'm like I'm going to be like, okay, you put the seed in the ground. No, you don't dig it up right away. Like, it takes
good now.
So then we put the sea water on. No, no, you don't do that.
They're pissing on it or something.
Ah.
This is some Jack and the Magic Beanstalk shit. It's about as believable to them as like that story is to us. I think you give them a fucking sword, man. Because I'm just imagining like they've probably got something similar to a sword now, like they make those wooden swords in the Amazon, and apparently there's hardwood there that's legitimately hard enough you can make like a cutting implement out of it and kill a man with it. But if you showed them a fucking stainless steel saber, like one of, or maybe one of those cold steel like swords that they make for like zombie defense or whatever the fuck, and you handed it to Chief Nabumbo, and like of course he'd immediately go decapitate one of his enemies with it, and he'd love you. That'd
Dude,
be
you would
big
start
for him.
a civil war if you brought one sword.
And you'd be on the winning side.
No, bow
You
and
would
arrow
be.
is not a bad thing.
Oh, a legit bow and arrow.
That's how they killed the
It's-
missionary.
A compound bow.
Am
Yeah,
I
that's
saying
the
it right, missionary? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
What did I call
yeah.
him before?
Mercenary.
Yeah, all right. Now I'm all caught up.
If you not even maybe a compound bow, because those like eventually go bad, and but like recurve bows, like that's another step up in the technology, right? Like, you know, they've got those silly bows they've got, and then I guess you'd have the long bow and then the recurve bow where the ends go back the other way and it adds a tremendous amount of extra power, 20 or 30% or something like that. And then just a shit fucking ton of wooden arrows, like good ones. They'd be blown away by that. They'd love that
I
shit.
think like what would endear them the most to you would be like a big cooking set, like a bunch of pots and pans and shit. That'd be so much easier for them. And then like normal knives to cut things up.
Knives
Like a
would be
knife
big.
set and like a pot and pan set.
Pair
They
of
would
blue
love that.
jeans would blow them the fuck away.
Oh, bring jeans but you know what? Oh, this would be hilarious. You bring jeans, but you bring like jeans that are way out of style. Like I'd bring like
Jean
jean
Co.
code jeans from the 90s and
Huge
I'd
legs.
hand them out. Huge leg jean code jeans. So then when the coconut man shows up, they've got these enormous big legged pants. That
I got
they're
a
all
better
wearing.
one. What if like unbeknownst to them, because they don't know shit, you dress them up as the village people. You just got a bunch of Indian police officer, firemen, like the whole bit, and they're all standing there proud of their new their new fucking
New
clothes,
duds.
and you're just like, I don't know, they're the village people.
That would be hilarious. Like you go there and you're the king and you like teach them English and you make them like act out American shows.
You know, this version of House of Cards isn't half bad.
Very small constituency, not a lot to gain or lose, doesn't seem, but whatever.
I don't know how Frank's going to get away with this one.
Yeah. He's molesting the kids of the island. Oh,
Well, yeah, he's
gotta make
It's,
it Claire's
meth-
show now.
method
Is that-
acting. It's a
How
great
often are you
experience.
using it now?
Almost
Because I
never.
know you were really into it. Okay.
Yeah, almost never do I use it now. I use it if someone comes over who's never used VR before. I love demoing it for people because I own a ton of games. The games are very cheap.
Yeah, I
to
would
10.
love to try one.
And everybody does. I'll always, whenever anyone comes over that is, you know, even if I don't really know them that well, like the yard man came a few weeks ago and he came inside so I could pay him. And I was like, you ever seen virtual reality? And he's like, what? I was like, come here. And I just put him in a game and he's got a bow and arrow.
You mean
and
like
he's,
Spy Kids 3D?
and he's I love watching like the bottom part of his face because he goes, wow. And everybody does that thing where you look around and you're like, holy shit. And then you look at your hands and you're like, holy shit, they move.
Mhm.
And then you like grab something, you're like, oh, that's intuitive. And you know, you draw the bow back and it's got haptic response. So they vibrate a little bit. So as you're drawing it, you hear as you're stretching the bow out, and it sort of vibrates a little as you're stretching it. And then when you release it, you hear the thunk and you get a little like haptic, like quick vibration.
Push from the thing, like making it feel like the tension's released. That'd be really cool. I've often like I bet that does sound fun, like showing people something neat. Like I've often thought how fun it would be to like go to like one of those tribes in Africa where they don't know anything and they think you're a ghost because you're white and like shit like that, and you just show up with like a run of the mill like couple of pizzas, and you're like, this is the white man's gift to you. I am not a ghost. And
Would they like it?
I eat the pizza, and they would take one bite and they'd be like, "Oh, this is the most calorie dense thing I've ever had in my body."
It burns the roof of my mouth. How did you keep it hot all this way?
Yeah. Well, here's my special Domino's hot box, or whatever the fuck that thing was.
There's a microwave in the car.
Yeah.
Start worshiping the hot box.
He can summon heat with this box. You know, that would like I thought about that. Like, what would be the things that you would show to a civilization like that to really just fucking blow their gourd?
Oh, it would.
The iPad.
I was gonna say an iPhone, but it'd be like awful. It'd be like, check this out, YouTube. Fuck, there's no signal. Trust me, it's really cool when there's a signal.
Dude, you break out that fucking.
I prefer pizza.
You break out a big like tablet, like a big Microsoft Surface or iPad or whatever, and you start fucking showing them like pictures of the world, like the industrialized world, and like videos of like show them videos of people flying on like those little, like
paramotor. If I brought my paramotor and it
no,
ran into the sky,
not doing that to
that
them.
will not be the first thing that they know about the outside world.
No, they would be amazed. They would be amazed at somebody running to the sky.
The white man's video. I fell asleep.
That's not true.
He just float in air and go.
Dude, planes are way more boring. Planes are boring.
I have a vine tied to a tree. I do the same thing.
See, like you'd have to show them something. Like food is what comes to mind, because that was what would blow their mind. Because if you showed them a video of something, not only would they not believe the things they're seeing, they wouldn't believe the method by which they were seeing them. You know, they would be like, "Is this some other world? Is this where is?" They'd like try to reach their hands through. Like, I want to go there. They have pizza. They have more pizza. What you brought? Like, I think you'd have to be kind of simple. Like a ring pop would blow these people's minds. Like that amount of sugar and the catchy.
I think they just giggle.
Yeah, they would just giggle at that. Okay, something that would actually blow their mind. Pizza would blow their mind. Cheese, because they've never had cheese.
Dude,
never had nice spicy pepperoni.
A fucking kazoo would blow their mind.
They just giggle. Like no, like a submarine would blow their mind. A flying machine would blow their mind.
A car.
You give them way too much credit.
A car would blow their mind.
An aerosol product. Anything like that would probably.
Lieutenant McGumbay's had a helicopter for decades. Okay, they are familiar with helicopters.
Lieutenant
McGumbo. So no, I think you could show them like, dude, a mirror. A mirror would do it. A mirror would blow their fucking.
Oh, good call.
They've had water.
Yeah, it's not the
but
same.
A mirror is totally different.
It's
not
like
the
same. But...
Look right here. You're in there. Oh, he has taken my soul. It would be. They would be blown, and you could just reflect the light and bounce it around on them. They'd freak out, like anything like that.
If that kind of society that we're talking about actually exists anymore, like
okay.
Remember we watched one. There's a documentary. The guy even went and they made a shield for him and stuff.
That one was fake.
Oh, really?
That's right. It did turn out to be fake, but those people have been exposed to the world before. Are there really people that? Like there are people who live a primitive style that I'll agree on and that I won't contest. People who've never seen anything but a primitive style, I wonder.
No, they do. I showed you that video a while back of like the actual like white guy meeting. They were afraid of him, for the white man, for like the first hour. They're across the river looking at each other, and they think he's a dead man because he's pale.
Yeah,
and he has blonde hair. They think he's a ghost. They don't. And he has to like. He gives them like candy or something, and like he's like, you know, food, and they taste it, and they're like, you know, they're like really like
they're like skittering, like he'll think that he has them okay, and they're like on a log, and he'll be like, oh, I think they kind of trust me now. He'll like take one step forward, and they'll like scamper back like 10 feet on the log, and then when they finally kind of trust him enough, they like take his hand and like try to wipe it, because they're like they think that he has some like chalk or something or paint all over him, and they're like blown away that's just.
He showed them matches. He showed them matches, and they were blown away by matches. And they were like, let me show you what I do. And they use the little like saw and like stick, the thing where it's like it looks like a miniature bow and arrow, but you wrap the cord around like the stick and you sort of saw a fire out. And they're like, yeah, this is how I do it. And he fucking knocked it out. This was no Wings of Redemption fire making video. He fucking created fire in just a moment. But the guy's like, boom, fire. And they're just like, whoa. And the guy's like takes the match and of course it burns out. And he's like smelling the match and tasting the match and like playing with it and trying to figure it out. He gave him candy and he showed him a mirror. That was one of the things. They were blown away, but showed him a digital camera, like a DSLR. That was science fiction for these people. It was like you showed them a teleportation device. It was really cool to see. And he sort of got like the alpha male guy of the group to like, he was the one who was brave enough, right, to like come in and like meet him first, and like he made a relationship with him, and then that guy would have to go to the others and be like, yes, okay, you will show us many things. Yes, come. Like bowls. They were blown away by these plastic bowls that he had brought with him, right? Because these guys have clay pottery or whatever. It was cool. So I think in South America there's still some of those uncontacted, super, never seen the modern world tribes, and they're probably looking at airplanes going over, thinking that it's the gods or they're that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean they must.
There's a movie, I wish I could remember the name of it, about a group of it's where Native Americans had been like in this like they're like partitioned away from the modern world in America, and the only way to get to them was like by going through this tunnel, and it wasn't supernatural at all. But like a couple of white guys stumble upon them, and they're like sitting around the campfire with these Indians, and like they're still speaking like whatever Comanche or whatever. And this guy, like that's his area of expertise, and he's explaining to him that man walked on the moon, and they all start laughing at him, and it's like, yeah, that's what you do. You fucking laugh at a guy who said that we went up there and walked on the moon. Of course, I guess you go on the Joe Rogan show, you might get laughed at a little bit. You say that too.
Well, like if you showed them that video, like,
I think he showed them that video.
Oh,
I think I think that maybe that was one of the things. I wish I could find that clip. I haven't seen it in like a year now, but I think he showed a man walking on the moon.
That would be a really cool one to show them.
Yeah.
Showing any kind of flight, any kind of speed, like a car, any kind of explosion, like
that's
something
what he did
like
too.
A big bomb or gun, like that would blow their mind. That'd freak them out.
He told him this is how the white man wages war, because they showed him their bows and stuff.
We must be very nice to the white man.
Exactly, right? He's like, this is how the white man wages their war. And he showed him like World War I artillery guns and World War II like artillery going off and like huge explosions around trenches and shit, and like tanks rolling into Fallujah and stuff like that. And that was pretty awe-inspiring for them too.
Awe-inspiring, or were they kind of like shit, like freaked out?
I don't know. It was interesting to see them like, one of them would kind of get it, and then he sort of talked to the others about it. He'd be like, this is how they fight war. So you see here, it was fucking cool. It's looking back in time, really, at like what we once were.
And it's interesting, like even the way they probably saw it was different, because they have such a tribal mentality that they probably thought, oh, by talking to this white guy, we're cool with all the white people now.
Yeah.
Like he's the white ambassador. Like he'll relay this to all the other, like that probably is like naturally how they think, because they grew up and evolved in those smaller groups, like the tribe setting. All that shit's just fascinating. Like, I wish there were more videos like that. God damn it, we industrialized everything too soon. We should have left a few groups like
but you
specially
can't keep
placed.
doing it. That's like, I wish there were more videos of like de-virginizing people who are no longer being created.
That's a subreddit.
Shit, that's true. Yeah, but we're like in a cool era for it. We're probably in the only era for it, like for the most part, where you can show them things as advanced as landing on the moon, and they still haven't like
there's a subreddit
invented
for
the wheel.
de-virginizing?
It was just a joke I was making because but I guarantee there is.
I just don't think people film that very often. I feel like when you graduate to making porn, they do, huh? Well,
I've definitely
I stand
seen...
corrected. I don't know. If I tried to set up a tripod my first time, I think she'd have said no.
You ever see those South American peoples? They find their skulls, and they did this thing where they wrapped leather bands around their skull to elongate them.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Like the
that.
next
They find the skulls.
So like you do a shoelace on your finger almost, and like
bands of leather. Like you wrap the leather tightly around the skull, and then it wet, and then it squeezes, and it's left on there. This isn't something you do in a day. This is like a lifetime effort to make their skulls elongate. And so nowadays, what people will do, I think it was the Anasazi, people will find these skulls, and they think that it's one of those like alien conspiracies. They're like, look. Here's what some people say, this is an alien human hybrid, but then they just do DNA, right? They're like, no, what this is, the aliens were coming down and teaching the Anasazi to do things. And the Anasazi were trying to make their children look like the aliens, which were their gods. And that's those are, you watch a couple of those and you'll be like, maybe. Maybe. They're also the same people who like put the stones out in the plains, like in those patterns that look like birds and animals, and they're like, you can't see. They had no way to ever look at this incredible artwork they made unless they were in the sky. And you're like, what's a goddamn good point? What the fuck? Why were they making those giant birds with stones and shit?
Because they had
I
coned
think
themselves retarded.
if I had, let's
It's
say
like, man,
that
a lot of our population is blind and dumb. Why are we doing this?
you can make things without going to the sky to see. If you told me, Woody, I want you to mow your name into the yard, I could do it.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, if you're sitting around doing absolutely nothing all the time except just like basic life things, and you like sit around at like in a circle at night with some friends and like take some mushrooms, you're like, you know what I want to do? Let's take a stone out in the middle of fucking nowhere, and 150 years from now, people are gonna be like, how the fuck did they do this? Like, it's aliens.
That's a great idea, dude. As soon as this headache leaves, I'll be with you.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a friend
Don't really
who's
follow
been
through in the morning,
maintaining a dead spot that says his name, and Kyle O is who he is. Anyway, he has his name and his last name with Roundup in his yard, and it's been over a year now. He's waiting for Google Maps to update. He desperately wants that thing to be on Google Maps, and he's a paramotor friend, so you see it when he flies too. It's kind of cool.
Honey, if this yard has to look like shit for the next 3 Christmases when your family comes, it's going to.
She must be tolerant. He's
look at this skull.
crazy.
Look how hardcore they went. Because like I know I described it, but you don't get a good sense of just how far they went unless you see it. It's nuts.
They look like those like there's a movies like Spaceballs where they have like
the cone heads?
Cone heads, yeah.
Yeah, that Dan Aykroyd thing. That was an SNL sketch that turned into a fucking movie. That had Chris Farley in it.
That's actually what Marge Simpson's skull looks like.
she has very short hair. It's just like a dent. Man, like I always wonder how stuff like this catches on. Like, was the son of a king born once, or the tribe chieftain, and he had like a long head, and he's like, my son is not going to get bullied at school. You all have to make your children's
We're making this
like
normal.
But things get, because I instantly started searching for ridiculous stuff that we do, and I landed on circumcision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is ridiculous that we still do it. But like, and you know me, I'm not a fan of it, but I'd much rather be circumcised than be walking around hitting my forehead on, top of doors.
On the hut archway. Maybe their huts have arched doors, and it makes perfect sense.
That would be hilarious. Like the way doors look, like when a cartoon character bursts through them. Like, it's just the cone.
There's more room for their brain to grow. Like,
yeah, but like not correctly. What if like they have an incredible sense of smell, but like no ethics? They lose any sort of ethics.
You said earlier you could name the other ancient wonders of the world.
Oh.
I think there's 6 more.
You want to try them? I think I can get some.
What's is it the?
Are we going to write them down, or are we just saying?
So the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The what is it of Rhodes? It's
Colossus.
like the Colossus of Rhodes.
Is Stonehenge one?
No, that's not an ancient wonder, I don't believe. There's these are harder than I thought.
Obviously, the Great Pyramid Giza.
Oh, isn't the pyramid of like Teclohetian or whatever that like Aztec one? Is that in there?
I didn't think so. I think
So you got Colossus of Rhodes, Great Pyramid of Giza, and Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
Gardens of Babylon.
The other ones
Oh,
are
Great Wall of China.
Mhm.
What? That's not an ancient wonder of the world?
Nope.
No, only white wonders.
Oh, well, damn.
Yes, most of these are in Europe.
Oh, the Colosseum.
Nope.
How about the Parthenon?
Parthenon.
No.
That's got to be in there, right?
Well, shit, man. I only got
The
some.
Lighthouse of Alexandria.
Oh, that's it.
Hey, that's one. Yeah, Woody got one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Mausoleum.
Get the
of
fuck off the
Holy-
internet, you
Yeah,
bastard. Hang on. Because I know it. Because he said the mausoleum. It's the mausoleum of like Hernaculus or something, right?
Yeah. Halicarnassus, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just
I
thinking.
remember that.
Statue of Zeus.
I love that. What he's like, the mausoleum of.
I was like, all right, Lighthouse of Alexandria library. Maybe he made that. And then he went right into the mausoleum. I'm like, all right, no. We're reading Wikipedia right now.
It's come to me as if in a dream. And man, big win.
Yeah, dude. Congratulations,
Back it
Taylor.
up,
Well
back it
done.
up for me. Thank you.
I'm happy I got the math one. It was the one I had my ego tied to.